12 weeks from now, your business can be twice the size it is today, and you won't be working a single extra hour to get there. In fact, you'll probably be working much less, like 6 hours a day, like most of my clients. I know it sounds absurd, especially if you've been grinding at your business for months or years, working 10 hours every single day, and you still feel stuck. But let me tell you, everything changes when you stop trying to scale your business and start scaling yourself first. I'm León Castillo, founder of Selfmastered, founder of Performance Institute. I've worked with 400 plus founders one-on-one, and I've had dozens of them double their revenue within 12 weeks, and the most extreme cases up to 12x. And every case study is on YouTube under my name. And I'm gonna give you the whole thing: how to make it work, what role your brain plays, the 3 things every work hour produces, and the 6 steps to change it. But you have to be willing to do the opposite of what gurus tell you. And heed one warning. Around week 3 or 4, when the numbers are climbing and you're obviously working, you'll pull the emergency brake yourself. You want to rebuild the system, question a goal, pick a random fight with a client or a team member out of nowhere. That's the moment that ends most founders. I'll also show you what's actually happening and how to get through it. This doesn't start where you think it does. It does not start in your business. It shows in your business, but it starts in your brain. Your brain is the machine that runs your business. And there's a handful of actions that actually grow the business. Think of it like outreach or content or hiring or firing or raising your prices. By default, your brain avoids every one of them and instead fills your day with busy work. So to double your revenue, you must first build the brain that makes the doubling inevitable. And to do that, you have to forget most of the self-help advice that you've collected over the years. Like for instance, you've been told mindset is 80% of the job. That if you believe something first, then you will manufacture the identity daily, and then the goal will inevitably happen. The equation is be, then do, then have, as if you already have it, fake it until you make it, and you will get it. Well, this doesn't work. It's well-meaning, but it is exactly backward. It makes you less likely to hit your goals, not more. Because you cannot argue yourself into being someone else. You have to build yourself step by step. This means, and I'm sorry to say this, your brain is not a manifestation machine. That's bullshit. But it is a prediction machine. Your thoughts about reality do not matter. What matters is your track record with it. So you have a story of being distracted, procrastinating, doubting yourself, sabotaging right before you hit your goals. It builds the belief that you are indeed unreliable. It expects more of the same, and it builds the data that produces that evidence. So faking it until you make it doesn't work because your brain doesn't care what you say you are, only what you do. If you waterboard yourself with "I'm rich" affirmations 1,000 times every day, but if your bank account sits empty, it logs you as delusional. But if you add a meager doggle to your savings every day, you stop believing you're building wealth. That's how it works. So identity isn't what you think, is what you do. So you will not double your revenue by faking it or doing affirmations or any other mindset bullshit. You do it by designing the exact behaviors that get you there at the daily level. And you will do it by giving your brain the only thing that it trusts: proof, real proof. Because there's a catch. Not all proof is created equal. If you never double your revenue, for instance, your brain has no proof that you can do it. What it has is a mountain of evidence to the contrary. Think of it as a file. Everything you said you do and you didn't do is in that file. Every deadline you move, every week you said this was going to be different. And you have never consciously read it, but your brain reads it every time you set a goal. So when you set a new goal, especially if you've never done before, your brain doesn't hear the goal. It scans the file and says, well, I have evidence of the contrary, so I don't think you will. And it manufactures the conditions to make that true. The good news is that this is just how brain works, right? Your brain thinks the hard tasks you need to do are a tiger, so it protects you from them. This doesn't mean you're weak. It means that you're running settings that you never actually picked. And Albert Bandura, the psychologist, spent his whole career on these questions. How can we believe that we're able to do things? And he realized that the most powerful way of building that belief is through mastery experiences, through proof. The file your brain has on you only updates on proof, but not everything you do actually counts. Every hour of your workday produces one of 3 types of proof. First, we have bad proof, which is avoiding. when you don't even show up. And this happens when the friction of the task exceeds your capacity to handle it. So you dodge it, you negotiate with yourself, you doom scroll, you do research, but you don't really do the thing. Every time you avoid what you said you do, your brain logs it in the wrong direction and creates a wider gap in your self-esteem. So never commit to something you didn't intend to do. But avoidance is bad, but it isn't even the worst kind. The worst kind is fake proof, grinding, when you show up all day with little to no leverage. The most important thing for you to do is the hardest thing on your to-do list. But if you don't do it and you choose the easy stuff instead, that's when you log fake proof. Your calendar is full for sure, you're exhausted just the same, but you're not doing what you said you were going to do. The real task gets demoted, and something inconsequential takes the slot. And the problem is that from the inside, fake proof feels identical to real proof. You end the day exhausted just the same, but it doesn't count. You can spend 12 hours trying to work hard, but hardly get any work done. And this is where most founders live, working 70 hours per week when they should be working 30, being stuck at the same revenue level for months. And the problem is that your brain cannot be fooled. You're still subconsciously creating that file against yourself. So avoid fake proof, never make a promise you cannot fulfill, and commit to real proof, which is how I call execution. Execution is doing the hard thing we listed in the beginning, the things that grow your business. Outreach, content, hiring, firing, raising prices. These are the tasks that make you risk failure the most, that feel dangerous, that create the most resistance. They're also the ones that move money. And real proof is the only currency your brain accepts. It's promise made and kept on the hardest thing. So the whole game of doubling your revenue is about converting as many hours of your day into real proof, on demand, every single day. And the good news is that this is a trained skill. And these are the 6 steps that make it possible. Step number 1 is to clarify the goal. We must understand exactly what doubling your revenue means and looks like. Let's imagine you are at 25K a month and the goal is to get to 50K a month in 12 weeks. You must be specific about what exactly needs to happen and what that would look like in terms of clients, average retainer, team members, go-to-market strategies. So we can know exactly what promises to make, because a promise that you can't measure is a promise that you can't keep. And if you don't know the numbers, well, that's your first discovery. Understand what exactly getting to 2 times revenue means. Once you're clear on that, you're ready for step 2, which is reverse engineer the path. You know this already. The only thing that matters is that you actually do the hardest, most highest leverage thing. And that is what I call the critical path, the shortest list of high leverage actions that take you to your goal. And I like to use 2 questions to get there. Question number 1 is, what are the biggest things standing between me and my goal? In this case, doubling my revenue. And the second one is, what is the shortest list of actions that kills them for good? Everything outside of that list is decoration. And I don't care how productive it feels to be wasting time on fake proof. If it's not on the critical path, we don't do it. And the beauty of this is that you already know what this looks like. You already know the hire that you're not making, the outreach that you're not sending, the content that you're not recording. You already know this. So by mapping it out, you clarify the exact commitments you need to make for you to doubling your revenue. At a 25K level, with an offer that works and clients who are paying, doubling is mostly about tripling your leverage per hour and systematizing, delegating, automating, and eliminating everything else. That's the whole game plan. But it hinges on mastering the day. So step 3, design the ideal day. Average founders reinvent the wheel every morning. Elite founders design a day that, if executed well, delivers the outcome on its own. So the next step is to break the critical path into daily action and lock them in a recurring calendar. When you structure repeats, you stop spending energy deciding and start spending it doing. And what I like to do is 5 tasks a day maximum. I know it sounds too small, but that's the whole thing. Because remember, we cannot make promises that we do not fulfill. A 10-item to-do list is a stack of broken promises that is going to be filed as manufacturing evidence against yourself. And there's also a biological reason to only do 5 things, because every decision pulls from the same limited tank. So a bloated list burns your best thinking on choosing instead of doing. So 5 tasks. We start with the highest leverage, the one you'd rather not do. And if you flinch at it, that means that it is high leverage enough. So every morning, you flinching in the front of a revenue generating task is the signal you need to go all in. And everything else gets demoted. Admin, client work, inbox management, all of that gets the afternoon, or if you have a VA, they should run it. And if a big task lands after lunch, it doesn't get done because big tasks are done at your prime cognitive hours, which are for 80% of you in the morning. So you design the ideal day and you repeat it as much as you can, because that's how the brain rewires itself through repetition. Then step 4, run the ring fence system. Instead of showing up and starting to work, you must work in sprints with one defined objective within a 90-minute session against a timer. That's what I call the ring fencing system. So this isn't time blocking. Time blocking is just calendar cosplay. This is the ring fencing system. You have one task is slightly outside of your current skill level against a timer and with one recorded outcome. At the end of every block, you review whether you did the task or not, whether you got distracted or not, and what is the next best thing you can do in the next session. That's the ring fencing system. And the power is that it's binary. Either you did it or you didn't do it. And the more you do what you said you'll do, the more real proof you have that you have what it takes to double real revenue. And we'll use a timer because your brain runs on dopamine. And dopamine does not read your Google Calendar. It responds to one thing, a game it can win. It creates expectation about the game. So if you have open-ended work that you can't chase, there's not enough dopamine for you to finish it. A timer, though, turns the session into something you can finish. Closing the loop is itself the hit. So the timer is not about time management. It's about making the work gamifiable, winnable. You win the session, you log it, and you beat yesterday. And that's how your brain starts rewiring itself, because work starts becoming the reward. Now, you must absolutely avoid getting distracted, because having dirty blocks with tons of distractions, that's fake proof. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to see this as having to push through and grind forever, because the more you run these blocks and the more you train your brain to complete them against the timer, and every time you're tempted to interrupt yourself or get distracted, you refocus, your brain rewires itself, rewires the brain circuits of re-attention. So over time, the task you dreaded disappears because you get very good at finishing it. And once the 90 minutes are done, you take a 15-minute block, you drink some water, look through the window, avoid the phone, and get back at it. And over time, you add load. You go from 1 session a day to 2 sessions a day to 4, 5, 6 sessions a day, as many as you need. And you will see how the outreach block that will spend your whole willpower on week 1 ends up yielding 6 times more output in week 2 or 3. And the beauty of it, remember that your brain is a prediction machine. So week 1, it predicts the block will hurt because every past contact with the task did. But predictions get updated. Every clean session with data about how to get better updates the forecast. By week 2 or 3, the brain expects you to deliver, which means that it has indeed rewired itself for becoming better at the task you were previously avoiding. And now you're ready to step 5, which is score it. This step's crucial. Almost nobody does it, but if you do it, it's going to change your whole business. Because if you think about it, every system you stop working in the past is because nothing was written down. Your brain only keeps what it can see winning. So you must absolutely score your work blocks. So every evening, score the blocks that got done versus those that didn't get done, and get actual data on how much leverage did you deploy and how focused you were during the session. By mapping these two, we get something called the execution score, which is the ledger your brain has been keeping on you. This is the beauty of it. Your brain has that file on you over time. Now you have access to it. You are rewriting the file in real time because you are logging gain after gain after gain and forcing your brain to update the forecast on your performance. By tracking every win, you're forcing your brain to expect to win. So over time, you go from sabotaging yourself to encouraging yourself. And if you have a Friday review session at the end of the week, you turbocharge this process. At the end of the week, you execute, measure, adjust, and repeat every single week. And this is how you build that self-belief. by watching yourself perform on record, not through affirmations, but through actual proof that you have what it takes. And let me tell you about Dylan, which is a fantastic client of mine. We started working together when he first launched his business. He was a cheesemaker and a musician and had zero business experience. He was very smart, but he was battling constant self-doubt because his brain had zero proof of capability. He'd never done it. He read every self-development book, 5+ years of morning routines, and he described getting to work as pulling himself into a paper shredder. And of course, we trained him, we put him on our methodology, and his first execution score came in at 20%. So 2 out of 10 things went as planned. Terrible proof to gather. But he persevered. Within 1 or 2 weeks, he was at 39%. Within 12 weeks, he was hitting consistent 80-something every single day. And that nagging voice of self-doubt that he had disappeared because he had accumulated proof of execution that drowned the voice out. That's how you do it. Now, I have another client of mine back in Europe who has the same story. He came to us because his attention span was broken. Turns out he had been avoiding outreach for months. He was stuck, I think, 15K a month, I believe. And he was only working 1 hour per day. After 6 to 8 weeks, he was at 6 hours, 4 ring-fence sessions every single day. And guess what happened to his business? It doubled within 3 months and doubled again in the next 3 months. Because when you take care of the inputs, the outputs take care of themselves. And finally, step 6, recoding. Everything worth having in life is hidden inside the one cave you don't want to enter. This is a Joseph Campbell quote. The ring fencing on the harder task, that's the cave. You must walk in. But walking in generates incredible resistance when you hit the deepest seated belief. And this is when by week 2, 3, or 4, you may be tempted to slow down, to pull the emergency brake, even if you have consistent proof that you are indeed executing at a higher level. That is your old identity fighting back. Because there's 2 layers to your brain. The conscious layer is behavior, what you do, right? And we rewrite that through the ring fencing sessions, the tracking, the Friday review. But the deepest layer is related to belief. It's what it assumes you are before you do anything. And those 2 layers feed each other. If you believe you don't follow through, you won't follow through, which proves you don't follow through, which strengthens the belief you don't follow through. So we must break the loop at the behavior level to consistently update that. But some beliefs are stubborn. They don't care about the fact that you have an 85% execution score for 6 weeks. That means we need to deploy a different mechanism. That mechanism implies waiting for proof of manufactured chaos at the edge of progress. That's how I frame it. That's when you have hit a deep-seated belief, protecting itself. When you start having a voice in yourself saying, people like me don't get this far, or people is going to find out I am an imposter, or I don't deserve to win, or whatever, that means you have hit a deep subconscious belief. And there's 2 moves to deal with this. One is to surface it. When you catch yourself getting your own way, you must ask yourself, what would I have to believe for this behavior to make sense, right? If you're crushing your outbound and clients are piling up, what would have to be true for you to stop? And write whatever comes up. It doesn't need to make sense, it just needs to feel real. And then, number 2, debunk it through experiments, because a belief is a prediction. So we must generate a small control test that break that belief. See, if the belief you have is, I'll be rejected if I charge more, what do? Well, you charge more to 1 client, 2 clients, and see how that works. If you believe you can handle success, well, you let yourself keep your wins until those wins become acceptable to your subconscious. That is how you do it. And I remember that European client I was telling you about, he started sabotaging himself in week 3. And he went through this by telling himself, I'm just going to give this 10 days, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna go back to be a degenerate. And it turns out that he never went back because it's actually worked. See, your beliefs do not vanish because you manifest them out of your life, but because you have proof that they do not belong in your life. And that's the whole process. Collecting real proof daily on 5 actions that move your revenue. And every time you hit your old identity, you recode it. And so far in your life, the fire your brain has on you was written under rigged conditions. You didn't even know you were doing that to yourself, but now you do. And if you run this, you will become a different animal. Because I've seen founders go from 10 minutes a day of focus to 8+ hours. I've seen founders have no clarity about what to do with your life, and suddenly be absolutely driven towards a long-term goal that they always dreamed was for them. I've seen founders being absolutely inconsistent to be consistently putting in the work every single day. I've seen founders not trusting themselves to do anything, to become insatiably self-believing. So ask yourself, out of the 10 hours you work today, how many counted? If you don't know, you need to start measuring. But if you know you're wasting most of your potential, I've created a tool called the Founder Score that in 2 minutes is going to tell you exactly what patterns need to be rewired for you to break through. And if your first thought when I just said this was, man, I'm not gonna do that, that's your subconscious talking. That is you sabotaging yourself again. If you truly don't want to spend years or a decade plus trying to figure it out how to break through, and you want a clear-cut, simple score that you can take today, and in 2 minutes, it will give you exactly what you need to know and what you need to train to break through. Run this process, and if you don't double your revenue, I'll send you money. See you in the next video.